Once the story was well known. Time, however, scattered those who were there and fragmented the memory. On the occasion of the 50th anniversary, we seek to reconnect those memories. In the 1950s, Cold War tensions and the outbreak of hostilities in Korea increased the sense of threats to the U.S. mainland. These threats were countered, in part, by a system of almost 250 radar sites scattered across the United States and Canada. Toward the end of that decade, better technologies, including airborne and ocean-based radars and the DEW line of distant early warning stations across the Arctic, made these sites obsolete. One such site, designated TM-193, with 13 buildings and 21 residences on 36 acres, was located just northwest of Lufkin. Also known as the Lufkin Air Force Station, this site was activated in 1957 and deactivated in the summer of 1961. At the same time, a group of parents of children with developmental disabilities formed a council to secure services for their families. They believed that many such children needed residential facilities, and they knew that sometime in the future, when they were no longer able to care for them, these people would need places to live. At that time, except for the state school at Mahia, no facilities existed to render services to persons with developmental disabilities in all of East Texas, and there were only a few school districts that were even beginning to have public education classes for these children. Mr. Ward Burke, president of the Angelina County Chamber of Commerce, and Mrs. Pauline Baird, a member of the Lufkin Council, conceived the idea that the radar base would make an excellent state school. This local citizens' council worked with United States Representative John Dowdy of Athens to have the former radar site transferred to the Board for Texas State Hospitals and Special Schools, while State Senator Martin Dies Jr. and then State Representative Charles Wilson sponsored legislation to provide funds for the opening of Lufkin State School. The Board for Texas State Hospitals and Special Schools appointed W. W. Beaver, then with Mahia State School, to begin serving as superintendent for Lufkin State School in January of 1962. We spoke with Mr. Beaver and the facility's first business manager, Paul Mayberry, about their early experiences at the state school.
January 62, when I showed up, actually, we were in the process of an ice storm, and I didn't make it over here until about the 5th of January. And the state school was sitting off of the road. They had a little guard shack that still exists, but that was the entrance. And as you came in, on the left-hand side, they had the county barn for all the maintenance equipment and everything. And there was a gentleman named Walker that was in the donkey business. that was there from there on to the guard shack. And on the other side of the road was land that did not belong to us at that time, and I believe one of our employees lived down in that. Ms. Montesette, lived there. Mm-hmm. And the thing was grown up in weeds. The Russ State Hospital had sent a maintenance crew over here and mowed some of the area. Air Force was still involved. In fact, 2 of the houses in this housing area were not even completed. They completed them later just to fulfill the contract. But it was, all the buildings were stripped of heating and air conditioning and a lot of the plumbing. It was shells. Job 1 was hiring a maintenance crew. Because what little maintenance that we had done before we hired a crew of our own was done by those that we could borrow from the Russ State Hospital. But that was the first task, was hiring a maintenance crew to kind of take care of some of the immediate things. We had a construction and design section in our central office that sent a gentleman over here, the clerk of the works, that's going to be in charge of the construction. In fact, while he was here, he lived in one of the houses over here for months.
Across the street.
Without any heating, cooling, or electricity. He just camped there.
He was roughing it.
Yeah, he was roughing it. I didn't have a personnel officer or an office, or didn't have an office at that time. I did most of the interviewing and so forth in my car or wherever we could find a shelter place out of the weather. Yeah, we started with girls from Lufkin State School were transferred over here, all female. I don't know, we had 3 dormitories,
Yeah. 2.5,
11 and 12 and
2.5.
509,
Yeah.
one half of 509,
Yeah.
upper floor.
Well, they were regular Air Force type barracks. They had individual rooms in them and one day room.
511 and 512 were typical Army buildings, series of rooms, one large bathroom on each floor. 509 was officers' quarters, and they had suites. They had 2 rooms, a bath between them. We took some partitions out and made small day rooms, attendant stations, minor alterations that we could do ourselves.
In the middle of March 1962, 35 ladies arrived from Mahia, and by the 22nd, a total of 84 ladies were transferred to this new facility. 2 of those ladies, now in their late 70s, still reside at the Living Center today. Paul Mayberry began work as business manager in May of 1962 and was appointed assistant superintendent in 1971.
You know, for the first 3.5, 4 years, Mr. Beaver and I were 24/7. One of us had to be here at all times. All of the employees that were hired during that period were hired by the 2 of us, mostly in his office. We didn't have a personnel office, for one thing, or anybody to do it, but we wanted to do it ourselves anyway, so.
By the end of March 1963, the census had climbed to 214. Early construction and renovation projects included installing a natural gas distribution system, improving the water well, and building the signature overhead storage tank. Kitchen facilities were expanded, and Building 506 was extensively renovated. The first education building, with 2 classrooms, stood where the gymnasium is today. Streets were added and extended, but not yet named. The first men's homes at what would become 519 and 520 Park Lane were constructed at a cost of $230,000, and improvements were made to the sewer plant. Current value of these early additions is $18.9 million. By early 1965, Lufkin State School had a staff of 150, serving the 400 individuals living there, with an estimated annual payroll of over $942,000.
Well, they were here first, and I think a number of years, and they were locally owned. When we came in, we had property that was right up next to them, so in fact, actually, they were nice enough to give us 3 acres of land there so that we could have access to our property without going around to Highway 69, and did that early on, and they've been a good neighbor for us ever since we've been here. They wanted to help us, and they did. The Chamber of Commerce understood that the Lufkin State School was going to grow. There was about 40 acres in addition right behind the facility that was available, and they purchased it and gave it to the state of Texas.
The additional land secured by the Chamber of Commerce enabled the state school, then part of the new MHMR department, to begin a major 2-phase expansion program. Phase 1, carried out during 1965 and 66 at a cost of $2 million, included a new street, later to be named Park Lane, on the north side of campus, and homes at 523, 524, and 549 Main Street. Another residence added during Phase 1 was Building 550. Also added were the Infirmary, medical and dental clinics, a laundry, warehouse, and the 553 dining facility. All Phase 1 buildings bear a unique architectural signature courtesy of L.W. Pitts of Pitts, Mebane, Phelps, and White, architects and engineers from Beaumont. Along with brick, the buildings make extensive use of natural wood, including full-span wood beams. Current valuation of these buildings is $12.8 million. By the end of 1966, 365 employees were earning $1.3 million annually, caring for the 700 people who then resided at the state school. In 1968, Phase 2 construction began with the addition of a new street, later dubbed Southgate, on the south side of campus. Also included were homes at 557 and 559 Southgate, as well as 561 and 563 Main Street. These residences incorporated dining halls 558 and 562. A canteen with barber and beauty shops, gymnasium, an employment services workshop, and new maintenance shop were also included in this phase. A new administration building, the Diagnostic and Evaluation Center, and a new education and training building rounded out the expansion, which was completed in 1971 at a cost of $2.3 million. The Phase 2 expansion is currently valued at $15.5 million.
We were an independent school district within our boundary by legislation. Of course, we were one of the few special ed education departments in the East Texas area. The Senate passed a Senate Bill 230 that gave us the authority to go out to these small communities that did not have special education and set up a pilot program and pick up those children that suspected of having learning difficulties and putting them in a school setting and feed them 3 good meals a day.
Our first was in Crockett, wasn't it?
Well,
Wasn't
yeah,
Crockett the
probably,
first
yeah.
one? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of the facilities have been shut down because of integration, and we refurbished those buildings and used them. I guess there's probably 15 maybe of those good programs.
Betty Harrell wrote in the July 13, 1964 edition of the Lufkin News, "Potatoes are better with gravy, bread with butter, and cake with ice cream. In like manner, service given by the Lufkin State School is improved by the work of the Volunteer Services Council."
When Mayberry came over and we kind of got our feet on the ground, we decided that we would spend the equivalent of 1 day a week in town visiting merchants, business people, politicians, anybody that we thought that might help us along the way. And we each decided to join. Well, I was already in the Rotary Club. I was in the Rotary Club when I came here. And Paul decided to join the Lions Club. But we felt that the hands-on community contact was very, very important.
The junior league, made up of the young ladies of the community, really did come out in full force in providing help for these parents who have family members that were going to come into our school. And they came in great numbers because we started filling up these dorms. They were there to help the parents, and this group is still doing a lot of good for our community.
I think if I recall correctly, our first volunteer organization was the Veteran of Foreign Wars. I think they were the first ones on the spot.
And they came out with 2 flags for us to to put on our flagpole. They were the first, really, one that came out and adopted a dormitory.
From the beginning, hands-on community contact was deemed essential to building relationships between the center and Lufkin's citizens. Early on, the Lufkin State School established a volunteer services council, and the partnerships this council formed have played a key role throughout the center's history. In 1968, ground was broken for a swimming pool, culminating a 6-year drive by the Lufkin Grandmothers Club. They funded the project through the sale of cookbooks, rummage and country store sales, as well as donations from individuals in Lufkin and Diboll. Area VFW posts have made major contributions to various projects at the Living Center throughout its history. In 1971, as State Center Maintenance Department personnel began to convert the parking area in front of the main dining room into Memorial Plaza, District 19 VFW came forward with money and materials to add a gazebo to the project. The center's 100-acre woodland retreat is unique for many reasons, not the least of which is that most of it was built with volunteer labor and materials. Throughout the 1970s, many businesses, organizations, and agencies contributed to the project, making it a refreshing retreat for those who call Lufkin State Supported Living Center home. Private fundraising began in the early 1980s, followed by construction of the center's long-awaited chapel complex, which provides a home for chaplaincy services as well as a church home for all the persons served at the center. The $1 million chapel opened its doors on Palm Sunday, 1987. The first Sunshine Open golf tournament was held in 1982, and 30 years later, it is a strong and viable fundraiser for the State-Supported Living Center. In the past 10 years, annual proceeds have risen from $20,000 to nearly $100,000, speaking volumes about the Lufkin community and its generosity towards the people served at the center. The Texas Forestry Association has donated more than $180,000 to the Lufkin State Supported Living Center since 1990. The money is raised at log auctions during the biennial Forest Family Fun Day and Equipment Show in Lufkin. Their donations, along with a TLL Temple grant, helped to build the Regional Orthotics Center and provide center residents with much-needed adaptive equipment and custom seating systems. The Living Center serves 180 people who use wheelchairs for mobility. Recent golf tournament proceeds and further grants from the TLL Temple Foundation have assisted the Volunteer Council in purchasing 6 wheelchair transportation buses. Costing about $67,000 each, the vehicles seat up to 6 people in wheelchairs. Each vehicle includes a lift and safety belts for safe, secure transportation to and from work, day programs, and trips off campus. Early engagement with civic groups like the Chamber of Commerce, Lufkin Host Lions Club, Junior League, Veterans of Foreign Wars, and the Texas Forestry Association have played a key role in the center's history. These organizations and more continue to support the center in many vital ways.
Oh, another thing that I'm kind of proud of is been our association with the Angelina College. We were here, I guess, 3 or 4 years before they came into being. After the feds got involved in our program, we had to have dormitory attendants. So we asked the college to put together a attendant training course for us, which they did. Later on, we had to have a certified ward clerk. So we asked the college to set that up. And then after that, we had to have a certified medication aide. We went to the college and they prepared that for us. And in the interim, they were building their LVN course, which later evolved into full-fledged nursing RN. So I'm real proud that we were in a position where the college helped us, and I'm sure we helped them at that stage of the game.
And I have mentioned many times down through the years that in the 1960s, two great men came to Angelina County. And that was Dr. Hudgens and Bill Beaver, and opened up two state facilities that have just been a great asset to Angelina County.
Chief physicians and medical directors who have served at the State Supported Living Center include Dr. Kurth, Dr. Killingsworth, Dr. Messer, the center's first medical director, Dr. Powell, Dr. Shepard, Dr. Cannell, Dr. Thames, Dr. Allen, and Dr. McCoy. Currently, Dr. Brian Carlin serves as medical director. Dentists include Dr. Crowley, Dr. Boren, Dr. Hill, Dr. Williams, Dr. McIntosh, Dr. Murray, Dr. Kavetsky, and Dr. Glasner. The center's original director, then Superintendent W.W. Beaver, was followed by Harry Heyman, Sandra Kane, Randy Spence, and current director Gail Wasson. Before working to establish Lufkin State School, Ward Burke, Pauline Beard, and the other parents and friends in the Lufkin Council worked with Stephen F. Austin State University to begin a teacher training program in 1959. It was in one of Burke's special education classes in 1977 that current center director Gail Wasson first learned about the Lufkin State Supported Living Center. She began her career at the center that same year.
It's a special environment because there are so many people that care about the people who live at the facility. I wouldn't trade my experience there for anything.